All right, we're going to look at the intercepts on a graph. And we kind of talked about at least the y-intercept a little bit, but we're going to look at both of them. So the first thing is that if we have an x-intercept, you could also see it called a zero. And it's the point where the line crosses the x-axis. And so the order pair is x comma 0. So if I were to just sketch this out, and I were to draw a x and y axis, and then I had a line, so here's my graph, my x-intercept, or my 0, is where the line crosses the x-axis. So it's where it crosses the x-axis. Okay. The y-intercept is the point where the line crosses the y-axis. And so again, if I were to sketch this one out, I'm going to sketch it over here. I have an x and a y. And if I have a line like this, it's the point where the line crosses the y-axis. So it crosses this axis. And the order pair is 0, y. So it's 0, y because you don't move anywhere on the x, so the x value is 0, and you just go up or down. Just like on the x-axis, the order pair was x, 0, because you went left and right, but then you didn't go up or down, so the y was 0. And you do need to remember these. You need to remember how to write the order pair. So every time today, I'm going to color my x-intercept red and my y-intercept green. And if you wanted to grab two different color highlighters and highlight one color and one the other color, and every time you see them, highlight them. Okay. So number 1, label the x and y intercepts on the graph and the table. And on number 1, my x-intercept crosses the x-axis. So where does a line cross the x-axis? Right here at 4. And that order pair is 4, 0. Okay, my y-intercept crosses the y-axis. So where does the line cross the y-axis? And it crosses up here at 5. So my order pair is 0, 5. On the table, my x-intercept has an x value and 0 for the y. So here it is. This is my x-intercept. I'm going to rewrite it, 3, 0. And then this is my y-intercept, 0, negative 7. So if it's a y-intercept, it has a y value. If it's an x-intercept, it has an x value. Okay, number 2. We're going to do the same thing. What is the x-intercept? Well, remember, it's where it crosses the x-axis. And it crosses right here at 3. So my order pair is 3, 0. And then what is the y-intercept? That's where it crosses the y-axis. And it crosses the y-axis down here at negative 5. So my order pair is 0, negative 5. And then on the table, we're going to do the same thing. The x-intercept has an x value. So here's my x-intercept. And my y-intercept has a y value. So here it is, y-intercept. 0, 10. Okay, we're going to do several calculator skills. And just as a reminder, you should have a calculator with you as we go through these calculator skills. And if I go too fast on the calculator, that's what the pause button is for. So pause it and follow along. You need to follow along on the calculator because I'm going to give you some things that you have to answer questions about. So just a reminder, on the paper, I wrote out some things. When you have an equation that starts with y equals, or maybe it's in function notation, which, remember, function notation is f of x equals. Then you can type your equation on a graph page like we have done already. And you press Control-T to see the table of points. So what I want you to do is you're going to follow along and write this equation out to the side. Y equals 2x plus 6. That's the first equation that we're going to look at. Okay? Y equals 2x plus 6. And now, let's go to our calculator, push on, pick a new document, so number 1. If it asks you to save, say no, and then we're going to pick a graph page. And since our equation already says y equals, we just have to type 2x plus 6 and press enter. And if I look at this graph, I can count, or I can see easily the x and y intercepts. So remember, the x-intercept crosses the x-axis. So that's right here. And the y-intercept crosses the y-axis up here. But I'm also going to show you two things. One, you can go to your table by pressing Control-T. And you can look at those points. You can scroll up to see the negative, and you scroll down to see the positive. And so then the y-intercept is 0, 6. Okay, that's this point right here. And I know that because if I were to count on my graph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's where it crosses. And so on our paper, we're going to write that the y-intercept is 0, 6. And then we're going to look at the x-intercept. So the x-intercept, if I look on the graph, it looks like it's at negative 1, 2, 3, which means I need to keep scrolling up. And there it is, negative 3, 0. So again, on our paper, we're going to write x-intercept is negative 3, 0. But that's how you use the table. If I want to get rid of the table, I get rid of it the same way I got it, Control-T. So you should be following along on your calculator. Something else on the calculator though. Push menu. And what I want you to do is trace your graph, which is number 5. And then I want you to do number 1, which is graph trace. And if you pick number 1, and then you use your arrow keys, it will tell you different points. And it even gets to the y-intercept and tells you, hey, the y-intercept, and then it tells you the point down here is 0, 6. And if you keep scrolling, you get to the x-intercept, and it tells you the point is negative 3, 0. But it says something else which is kind of cool. It says it's the 0. So remember, on the front of your paper, we said the x-intercept is also called a 0. And so it's telling you on the calculator that the 0 is negative 3, 0. Okay? All right, I want to now show you what would happen. So if I have an equation, actually, before I do that, I want you to practice one. Okay? So on your paper, okay, I want you to write y equals negative 1/3 x minus 2. Maybe it will focus. There we go. Y equals negative 1/3 x minus 2. Write that one down. And now let's go to our calculator. Excuse me. Press Control Dock and add a new page. And we're going to add a new graph page. And go ahead and type that one in. Remember, to get a fraction, you press Control divide. -1, scroll down for the 3. Outside of it, x minus 2. The minus sign is the black key. Okay, press enter. And tell me, what are the x and y intercepts? Well, if you're looking at this graph, the x-intercept is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -6, 0. And the y-intercept is 0, -2. And again, if you're not sure how to check those, you press Control-T, and you look at your table, and you can scroll. 0, -2 is your y-intercept. And then we said -6, 0, which matches up with our x-intercept. Press Control-T again to get rid of your table. And then press Menu, Trace, which is number 5, and Graph Trace, which is number 1. And you can just scroll left and right. So if I scroll left and then go back to the right, it tells me the y-intercept is 0, -2. And if I just keep scrolling to the left, all I'm doing is pushing this red arrow. It's not red on your calculator, but that's what I'm pressing until I get to the 0, and then it tells me the 0 is -6, 0. So on your paper, make sure you write that. The x-intercept is -6, 0, and the y-intercept is 0, -2. Now, what happens if I have an equation that does not say y equals, and it doesn't say f of x equals? Okay, so for example, the equation that we have here in this problem says 4y equals 2x plus 16. So go ahead and write that out to the side just like I did. And if you forget the steps, that's what this paper is for. It's telling you the steps on the calculator. But I want you to follow along with me. We're going to press Control Dock and add another page. We're going to add another graph page, which is number 2. But this time, I can't type it there because that says y equals, and my problem says 4y equals. So we're going to delete the equal sign, and you get a list of options. And the option that you're going to pick is number 6, a relation. And once you get to a relation, you can type any equation you want. So 4y equals 2x plus 16. When you do use a relation, you have to put the equal sign. Okay, it has to be there somewhere. And then press enter, and it will still graph it for you. At this point, you won't get a table. You can't press Control-T and get a table. So if you try to do that, it's going to give you an error saying that this is not typed in as a function. Okay, but you can still use your menu, trace, and then graph trace, which is number 1, so menu 5-1, and you can scroll left and right. So all I did is I pushed left once and then right once. You could see it's telling you the y-intercept, and my y-intercept is 0, 4, which makes sense because if I count on the graph, 1, 2, 3, 4, it crosses the y at 4. And now if I scroll to the left, and I keep going until I get to the 0, and it says the 0 is -8, 0. So it's telling you the order pair, which is really nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, -8. Okay, so my x-intercept is -8, 0. So make sure you write those ones down on your paper as well. All right, so now I'm going to give you one to try. Okay, so if I say 2x plus 3y equals 12, let's go to graph page and see what the x and y intercepts are. So remember, Control Doc adds a new graph page, so number 2. And you don't have a y equals, so you must delete the equal sign and pick a relation, which is number 6. Type the whole thing in, so it's 2x plus 3y equals 12, and just graph it. So again, you're looking for your x and y intercepts, and you can count it and write the order pairs down, and then you can use menu 5, 1 to trace your graph and get your points. So here it's telling you your y-intercept is 0, 4. And if you keep scrolling, your x-intercept or your 0 is 6, 0. So I wrote those down on the paper.